Hello and welcome to today's video as we go over patch 15, 16, 25, 16, whatever we want to call it. We're looking at how this patch affects players in Tier 1 of Lol Esports, taking each player's champion pool, relating it to the patch, cross-referencing it and figuring out who's the players that are happy about it and who isn't. So, to determine if a player's been buffed, a champion's been buffed, if a player benefits from that, my line in the sand is 4% of games played since, the last 2.5 seasons. So season 13, 14, and what 15 has been. Now, a nerf is a champion that's been nerfed that a player has played in at least 10% of their games this season. That means they're relying on it more than most other champs in their pool. And now that it's nerfed, maybe it will be forced to be taken out of their pool and therefore negatively impact them. So this patch, the majority of it is really top and jungle changes or champions that tend to play in those roles. Support thereafter, bot lane, and then mid lane barely was touched as far as champions that we see in pro play. And keep in mind also, I understand some nerfs and buffs are placebo, but that's not what this is about. This is about just looking at it black and white. If a buff's a buff, a nerf's a nerf. So in top lane, I combined Gnar, Rumble, Sion. So all the players on the left there are technically buffed by all three of those champs. As in, all three of those champs, they played 4% of their games. So 1 out of every 25. And for instance, Lot, this season, he's a rookie, has 29% of his games played on either Gnar, Rumble, or Sion, which is pretty insane, really. Think about it, over 1 out of every 4 games. And now those champions have been buffed, so it'll only help him. Sheer, 27%. Perfect, 27%. Kana, 27%. Rich, 25%. Driver, 25%. All 1 in 4 games. They played these champions over the last 2+ seasons. So this is only going to benefit them. Siwu, rookie. Bin, Bull, Breathe, Zoan, Castle, Solo Kill, Zolfbay, Doodoo, all 1 in 5 games. I mean, they're going to be happy about this patch. Then we get into, the other players, right? So, Gnar and Rumble. These guys don't play a lot of Sion, but they do play a lot of Gnar and Rumble. So, Kingen, 32% of his games, which is more than anybody on the Gnar, Rumble, Sion group. 1 out of every 3 games over the last 2 2/3 seasons, Kingen has played either Gnar or Rumble. It's pretty insane, really, you think about it. That's a lot of games for a player that plays a lot of games. Thanatos, over 1 out of every 4 games. Wiser, 1 out of every 4. Knock Knock Onaja, almost 1 out of every 4. Clear, 1 out of every 5. These guys rely on these champions and they're buffed, so it's only going to help them. The only nerf, technically, on the top lane was Warwick. And we'll talk about that in the latter part of the video. Rumble. These guys don't play Sion or Gnar all that much. Oscar, Keen, Photon. All play more than 4% of their games on Rumble, but not Gnar and Sion. We got Sion and Rumble, I guess. Let's do this. So, going all over the place. Rek'Sai, by the way, let's just get this. Evie plays a lot of Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai was kind of a top lane fringe meta pick last year. But Evie played it 7 times or some shit. So if Rek'Sai is in a good place in lane, if there is a player that will play it, I would say Evie is the guy that's most likely to play it. Sion and Rumble, these guys don't play a lot of Gnar. Now keep in mind too, I'm not saying these players don't play X, Y, and Z champion necessarily, but they don't play it as much as everybody else. So therefore, in my opinion, they're less likely to play it than somebody that already was when it wasn't buffed. But Impact, 22% of his games are on Sion or Rumble. That's 1 out of every 5. Surti and Cube as well. Dokla, Flandre, also nearly 1 out of every 5 games played on those 2 champions. And then the guys that only played Sion, really. Rooster barely has any games, so he's on there, but, he barely counts for this. Kratos, not a big Gnar and Rumble guy. Broken Blade, not a big Gnar Rumble player, and neither is Din Den. In the jungle role, a lot of buffs and nerfs, but a lot of off meta picks that we've seen pop up over the last couple years. And like I said, we'll talk about it at the end of the video. I'm going to do a little bit something different at the end just to kind of um, briefly, very lightly hit on some of these champions. But Brand and Zyra were big picks last year in an AP carry jungle meta. And as far as that's concerned, over the last 2.5 years, we've seen these guys really play a lot of Brandon and Zyra. Guri appearing on both lists for MGN Viking Esports. He's a very strong carry threat. Yike appearing on both as well. But Scary and Adi played a lot of Brand. Now, everybody played a little bit of Brand pretty much, but these guys, 7% of their games, and that's taking into account the last 2.5 years, when really it was only meta last season. So it goes to show you just how much they were picking that champion last year. Krako, Decimus, Tarzan as well, Nayu. Zyra, Raptor plays it the most for Fear X, 7% of his games. Junjo, 1 out of every 20, as well as Skuman, Kiroka. You got to think, Skuman's on here because he played Zyra this year. So, if Zyra wasn't buffed and he played it, what's the chances that we see G2 play Zyra now? I think it's much higher. In terms of nerfs, J4. So, the 4 players up there only started playing in summer. So, really, I mean, I'm just kind of taking up space. When you have Thaiger only play like 4 games and 2 are on J4, yeah, I guess it's going to happen. It'll be 50%. Or 2 games, so it's even worse. But Citrus, Griffin, Johan all played J4 already this year. It's been nerfed. Nocturne, though, we see Citrus at the top, 13% of games. But Zhao and Guri, Hizto, Krako, Owner, those guys have been playing a lot of J4 because you're looking at players with 60, 70, 100 games played this season, and they play J4 more than anybody else, and it has been nerfed. Viego, a big pick for Hizto. Zhao Feng, Nayu, Monkey, and Guri. Viego has been nerfed in the jungle, but buffed in lane, I believe is what that adjustment was. We haven't seen Viego in the lane for a very long time. I think somebody... Oh, in LJL, I think somebody played Viego mid this season. But very, very, very weird pick we have not seen in a while. But these guys played a lot of Viego, and it's been nerfed. Hizto played a lot of Nocturne as well. So, not great. Guri also playing a lot of Nocturne. These champions being nerfed. We'll see if it affects the champion pools. Trundle also nerfed. When you look at the top guys, Skeens, Why Not, Yampi, all just playing in summer. But Cuz, Pioshek, Skuman, Adi, Krako, they've been playing all year pretty much, and Trundle's been nerfed. So in the case of Cuz, 13% of his games, or about 1 out of every 8, he's playing on Trundle, and it's been nerfed, as well as Pioshek. Xin Zhao. So you're going to be like, well, Xin Zhao's been nerfed. Who isn't affected by the Xin Zhao nerf? Well, there are about a dozen players that didn't play 10% of their games on Xin Zhao. Some didn't play it at all. Players like Hizto of Team Secret Whales, Lucid of D+, Linkus, Vitality, River, 100 Thieves, Sheo, Heretics, Razork, Fnatic, Zhaofeng, LNG, Blabber, Cloud9, Guri of Vivo, almost said Vivo Kisars because purple, but Guri of Vikings, have played all season and not played enough Xin Zhao to be considered nerfed. There's about 45 junglers that have played a shit ton of Xin Zhao. And we're going to talk about who's played it the most out of everybody this season. But these guys play it the least, if not, haven't played it at all. I believe a guy like Thaiger and Skeens, because they've played only in summer, they haven't played it. They're not big, I mean, they haven't played much. But like a guy like Guri, not a big Xin Zhao guy. He was a Nocturne and Viego guy. His still the same way. Well, if they're playing those two, yeah, they're not playing Xin Zhao, I guess, and the nerf got him anyways. They still got God, I guess. But there were a ton of picks. I mean, they're trying to alter the jungle meta. It's going to be fun if they actually hit. I'm not going to speculate on what's valid pro play-wise versus solo queue-wise. I'm just going to say I hope that a couple of them hit because they are going to be fun. You got Morgana, you got Nautilus, Rumble, Silas. It's just very, very interesting, and I hope it comes through. Brand and Zyra as well. A big change maybe going into Worlds in a month or so. Yeah, so now onto the second half of the video. All right, so second half of the video, we have bot lane because mid lane. So mid lane had Morgana, Kiana, and, well, Viego Lane buffs. Nobody's played Morgana mid over the last 2 years or so. We do have Kiana being played by, like, I think 3 players may have played it. We'll talk about that in a second. But otherwise, mid lane's not affected by this patch all that much in terms of champions. But bot lane, 2 big champions mentioned. So Kalista has been buffed. And the players I've listed on there don't play Kalista. These are the guys that didn't play it much this year. Everybody else did. And yes, Kalista was a shitty pick, especially at MSI. No doubt about that. That pick stunk and people continued to choose it. But if they were choosing it then and it stunk, what's the chances you think of them choosing it now when it's buffed? I think it's much higher. And then you have the players on the right of that don't play a lot of Varus. So Varus nerfs, it wasn't a big deal. I wasn't playing it anyways. Goodbye. It helps me. If I wasn't playing it, to take it out of other players' champion pools, that's nice. So there's several players on there listed that don't play those champions. And you'd be surprised to see who's on those lists. Of course, quite a few are players that only have played in summer, but you got players like Supa and Ruler, Ayu, Jackie, Leave, like Taeyoon, like some pretty good players. The support role, we saw quite a few champions on this patch, but Rel being nerfed is interesting because there's about a dozen players that don't play Rel, but a lot of players do. Very reminiscent of how I was talking about the Xin Zhao situation, like Busio, Barrel, Keria, Kaiwing, Isles, Lehens. These guys don't play Rel. So Rel being nerfed, oh well, I wasn't playing that engaged champ anyways. And we saw a couple other nerfs and a few buffs in the support role, and we'll talk about that. I mean, I really want to hit on top and jungle because those are what I just liked. The changes being made, at least from a champ, if they work, it'd be great. So in the top lane, though, when we look at Gnar being buffed, the player that plays Gnar the most is Kingen. 19% of his games for the last 2 and 2/3 seasons. 1 out of every 5 games he's played has been on Gnar. It's pretty crazy. Alawi was buffed. You say, well, no one plays Alawi. That'd be wrong. Pun, who's on Team Secret Whales. Over the last 2 and 2/3 seasons in Tier 1, so that doesn't even include the majority of this season, he's played Alawi 3 times. So, if Alawi's been buffed enough to maybe be a fringe pick, you're looking into a Game 4, Game 5 situation in Fearless, maybe Pun could pull it out. Sion being buffed. Cube of Team Wii, 10% of his games have been on Sion. Mordekaiser was buffed. 369 plays it more than anyone else at 3% of his games. Rumble, perfect, has played it 16% of his games. Warwick nerf, Broken Blade. Out of the 5 games we've seen Warwick top, he played it 4 times. So 5% of his games have been on Warwick this season thus far. In the jungle role, Morgana was buffed. Sheo, 1% of his games. He's played it twice. I think Guri also has played it twice over the last 2 and 2/3 seasons. Morgana buffs in the jungle. Who knows? Nautilus buffed. Adi of Lion, 1% of games. He's played it twice. I kind of went with whoever's played it at least a couple times. Otherwise, I'll mention it. Rek'Sai for Yike. So how Evie played Rek'Sai a lot last year, Yike played him 8 times. So if Rek'Sai is buffed enough to be anywhere close to meta, I feel like Yike or Evie are going to be the ones to pull it out. Rumble buffed. Krako, 1% of his games over the last 2/3 seasons. Silas is buffed. I say 0% because Kanavi played it 1 time. Nobody else has played Silas jungle up until this morning. Buffs go through. Probably on this patch, his toe played Silas. Xin Zhao nerfed. Yuji of Team Liquid. 24% of his games this season have been on Xin Zhao. Mid lane, Kiana buffed. Care of FPX played it 4 times. Nobody else has played it more than once for the last 2/3 seasons. 2 and 2/3 seasons. Care 4 times for 2% of his games. Bot lane, the player that played Kalista the most this season, despite it not being in a great state, are Fly and Masu, 12% of his games. Varus being nerfed. Ice of BDS played it in over 1 out of every 5 games. Support. Morgana being buffed. Maybe it helps support Morgana. Lahens has played it twice. The only player to play it twice in the last 2 2/3 seasons. Rumble being buffed. June of Giant X, 2% of his games. Zyra being buffed. Mickey X, 1% of his games for Fnatic. Nerf set support. Feather has played Lulu for Thunder Talk 7% of his games this season. Rel Paris, 33% of his games for BDS has been on Rel this season. 1 out of every 3. That's pretty damn predictable. And then Yumi for June, 2% of his games for Giant X. So just some interesting things to add to the board here because the video, I had to use the second board. I might as well fill it out. So thank you for watching. If you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.